1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There's one more.
One more. Okay. Yeah.
Najmi?
Is he here? He's here. Ah, there he is.
Right.
Najmi? Yes, I know.
Okay.
Najmi has a chat. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, it's good to see all of you here. Now I can see your faces. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Now who's the moderator?
Me.
Natasha.
Natasha.
Ah, Natasha, that's the moderator. Okay.
Can we start now?
Yes, yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, Albeit audiences and to our panels. Such a lovely day together here to have a forum. My name is Natasha Najmi and I will be your moderator for today. Our forum title is Drug Addicts Should Be Helped Rather Than Punished. Many people don't understand why or how other people become addicted to drugs. They may mistakenly think that those who use drugs lack moral principles or willpower and that they could stop the drugs use simply by choosing to. In reality, drug addiction is a complex disease, and quitting usually takes more than good intentions or a strong will. Today, we have panels that have knowledge about this topic and will explain in detail regarding this topic. Before the forum begins, let me introduce you to our dedicated panels. Our first panel is from a medical background. He graduated from University Malaya in Medicine and now working in Hospital Kuala Lumpur. He is Dr. Muhammad Najmi Hakim. How are you doing today, Doctor?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Our next panel, we have Inspector Abzatul Najwa from Bukit Aman. Thank you, Inspector, for spending your precious time together in the forum today. Okay. Next, we have a representative from a government organization called AADK that fights for the rights of people that once used drugs and they continue to fight against drugs. He is Mr. Muhammad Irfan Hafi. Welcome to our forum today. Okay. Next, our honored panel is a professor in psychology at University Kebangsaan Malaysia. She has been teaching psychology for about 10 years. She is Professor Putri Dania Iwani. How are you, Professor?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, we introduce you to someone who has a sweet smile, Ms. Nurul Huda. She is one of those journalists who did research about drugs. Welcome to our forum today. Thank you to all our panels for making time to discuss this crucial topic and hopefully we can gain a lot from this discussion. To start our forum, I would like to ask Inspector Abzatul Najwa a question. As a police officer, you are the most qualified to ask questions regarding the law. First of all, do you believe that drug addicts should be punished or the other way around?
Thank you to our moderator, Ms. Tasha. Before I explain more about drug law and penalties, I want to touch on the definition of drug. Based on what I've read on drug and narcotic directed from drug policy and law, drugs are defined as substances that can affect a human's and animal's biological and neurological states. Drug can be swallowed, injected with a needle, applied to the skin, or smoked. Okay, now back to the question. From my point of view, I believe that punishment is the best treatment for drug addict. Based on international drug policy, drug-related crimes under the Dangerous Drug Act 1952 are imprisonment, corporal punishment, and the death penalty depending on quantities and previous offence. According to American Addiction Center, the penalties for drug-related charge are determined by several factors. The substance, the amount of the substance, and the activity the person was engaged in. Those repeatedly committing serious crime with large amount of dangerous drug are more likely to receive harsher penalties. With regard to law enforcement, not all drugs are treated equally. Current law has two main objectives. First, it regulates the manufacture, sale, and use of legal drugs such as aspirin, sleeping pill, and antidepressant. Second, it prohibits and punishes the manufacture, possession, and sale of illegal drugs from marijuana to heroin, as well as some dangerous legal drugs. For the penalties, the level of penalization should be determined according to the severity of the crime. Simple possession is a crime that occurs when a person has a small amount of substance on themselves or available for their own use. If an individual is arrested with possession of illegal drug or controlled substance, they can face jail time. The length of jail time differs according to the previous criminal record of the individual. Selling drug carries much harsher penalties than those who receive. An individual who has repeatedly been arrested for selling drugs may face double the fines and imprison time, depending on the situation. According to Michigan drug crime lawyers, placing those who have been charged with a drug offense in a jail is not conducive to help an individual rehabilitate. In fact, being imprisoned with those who have potentially committed more serious crime may ultimately result in the individual developing worse criminal tendency. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to our first panel, Inspector Najwa. From what we can see, the level of penalization determined by several factors. Okay, now I want ask one of the doctors invited today. Dr. Najmi, can you explain about drug addicts in terms of medicine?
Thank you. And if I can. And first of all, thank you to our respected moderator, of course, to Madam Hamidah for inviting me for this forum. Okay, regarding our topic, should addicts be punished or not? We must first understand the definition of drug addiction referred to the National Institute on Drug Abuse. In their website, and I quote, drug addiction is uncontrollable drug seeking and use despite of harmful consequences and changes in the brain. When we are talking about changes in the brain, it is not other than we are talking about addiction. What is addiction? I'm sure that our audience here, including the panel and Madam herself, are well versed that addiction takes long time to recover. To lead to harmful behaviors such as crime and etc. However, it can be cured. I'm not saying that it is 100% not curable. And as a medical practitioner, I would say that the state of a patient returning to their habit of taking drugs after treatment is called relapsing disease. So what is the relapsing disease? It is a return to drugs. It is a disease that makes the patient return to drug use after an attempt to stop. However, it is a part of process to recover. But newer treatments have been developed and designed to help with this relapse prevention. And in fact, to add statistics from the official website of National Anti-Drug Agency clearly shows that repeated cases of addicts per case and per individual are constantly declining from the year 2014 and 2020. So, given the respect, I would argue that considering the definition by the United States federal government of research, addiction is a chronic disease and the state of relapse is not. Thus, it follows that drug addiction should be treated with medical care rather than to be punished. Before I jump to my second argument, I would like the audience to understand that drug addict and drug abuse are two different things. Therefore, I would argue that in view of the difference between addiction of drugs in general and referring to the statistical research data from the National Survey on drug abuse is the crime, not drug addiction. And it follows that punishing all drug addicts would not be a fair jurisprudence. To sum up, to sum up all my views, I would humbly say that a disease should not be punished, but treated with and the ones who are obliged to be strictly criminally to their crime. So that's all from me. Thank you, and return the floor to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for your explanation, Dr. Najmi. Furthermore, I would like to invite Mr. Irfan. My question for you is, what is your stance when it comes to how we treat drug addicts?
Many thanks, Moderator Tasha. Currently in the AADK, I work under the BRPP, which is the Bahagian Rawatan Perubatan dan Pemulihan Division, where we provide treatment and rehabilitation through institutional rehabilitation and community rehabilitation approaches. Now, government agencies such as mine treat addicts through rehabilitation centers. Individuals seeking help could visit our rehabilitation center called Cure and Care Rehabilitation Center, or short form is CCRC, and also Cure and Care One Malaysia Clinic. What are the uses of the CCRC? According to the official website, National Anti-Drugs Agency, Ministry of Home Affairs, the CCRC functions as a rehabilitation center, which provides treatment and rehabilitation for a period not exceeding 2 years. The center also provides them a supportive environment removed from society where these drug addicts can share their experiences and background with one another without being publicly shamed. When they arrive at the center, they will undergo the CCRC model. The CCRC model, according to our 2015 AADK annual report, is the set of activities that drug addicts will carry out. Examples of these activities are relapse prevention, religious and spiritual, counseling, social support, and sports during their time in the center. However, even with the establishment of the CCRC, I understand that some of the audience might be a skeptic and wonder, is the rehabilitation center really that effective? It is, and I can prove it. According to the drug statistics from the official website, National Anti-Drugs Agency, in 2015 up until 2019, on average, the total number of new addicts detected were 18,725 individuals. Then, when we observe the data or for repeated addicts, on average, about 4,231 individuals were detected. What does all this data mean? The number of repeated addicts are actually lower than new addicts. This shows that not all newly detected addicts will have a relapse. Only a quarter of them will. In fact, this also means that the system that we have currently implemented works and that drug addicts should not be neglected. Thank you.
Interesting. As a representative of AADK, Mr. Irfan Hafiz stated that drug addicts should be helped. In addition, I would like to ask Ms. Nurul Huda, as a journalist that wrote a lot of news about drugs and crimes, what do you think about this issue as a society?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tasha. Do drug addicts need to be helped rather than punished? My view on this topic is that I will assure punishment as the best treatment for drug addicts because not every drug addict is aware of this illness or knows about the treatment provided. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs in 2019, there are almost 35 million people worldwide suffer from drug use disorder, while only 1 in 7 people resist treatment. This shows that not everyone willingly volunteers to get the treatment. Why is this happening? Based on the news, the Star News entitled "A New Start for Prison and Prisoners," Nation Prison has a capacity of 50,000 but the majority of the prisoners are in for drug offences is over 46,000, which is almost 64% of the total. Our country has a huge number of drug addicts. Why is the number of drug abuse cases high in prison? Prisoners who do drugs obtain special treatment or better treatment. In the book that I have read entitled Drug Abuser in Prison, published by the World Health Organization, some of the drug users prefer detention to treatment as they thought that the prospect of living through 4 months of detention often less threat than the idea of living through up to 2 years of drug treatment. If we say jail, some people will only imagine the suffering inside the jail, but they are also provided rights and needs for the prisoner, including their treatment, security, and safety inside the jail. The drug abuser will have a massive program for them after sentencing. Undergo a process of rehabilitation, reintegration, probation, community service, and treatment. In the prison, the prisoners are not only being treated, but they will learn many skills to help the prisoner find jobs and place to live after release. In the news entitled A New Star for Prison and Prisoner by the Star also, the prisoner will contribute to work release programs and to drug policy reform. The Deputy Commissioner of Prison in the interview says that the outcome of this punishment is to produce healthy prison and can contribute to the community. This can be a great turning point in the prisoner life. They can become a better person at the same time, get a new life. I can conclude that placing someone in prison for addiction can seem like an excellent way to stem the tide of crime. Okay, that's all for me.
Thank you, Ms. Nurhuda. Moving on to our last panel, Professor Putri Dania Ilani. As someone who is an old hand, how should we as civilians view drugs addicts and how would you describe our society's views of drug addicts?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you to our lovely moderator, Miss Tasha, and good evening, Abid, to fellow panels and everyone in this forum. Without realizing it, all of us are so lucky to be here to gain knowledge and a new point of view through this forum with the title Drug Addicts Should Be Helped Rather Than Punished. As for me, yes, I think they should be helped. Why? Okay, let us ponder over this quote that says addiction is a family disease. One may suffer, but one may use, but the whole family suffers. What makes the family suffers when there is only one person who takes the drug? This is because, from the definition of drug addiction that have been given earlier by Dr. Najmi, I would like to highlight the word long-lasting. It is true that drug addicts can be treated, but it's not simple. As the consequence of drug addiction can be long-lasting, so does the treatment. For civilians, the right thing to do to actually contribute some help to them is by showing support. The thing that we pointed out the most is always having support from people around them so that they will get determined to change and agree to go to treatment. However, that is not what is actually happening to our society. That's why most drug addicts tend to give up to change and lose hope. This is due to the long-term need, as mentioned earlier, which is 2 years, or repeated care to stop using completely and recover their life. Even so, punishing them will never give a good solution because the addiction is still there. Nothing will change. Unfortunately, as someone with a psychology background, I get to see that the stigma is real. And our society lacks of support for these people. They are very cynical and about people who take drugs, and somehow society got the point. This is because, according to an article written by our ex-Minister of Youth and Sport, Mr. Sheikh Sadiq, he said in his article, there are those who receive rehabilitation but when they are released from the program, they either succumb to their previous addiction or go back and mix with the wrong crowd again. This shows that they are still struggling and society needs to show good examples to them to prevent relapsing to happen. Even though we are repeatedly being reminded about the second chance and remember that everyone makes mistakes in life, it's still hard to instill what is needed in ourselves, a sympathy. And this is clearly why drug addicts give up to go treatments and to recover their life. I want to ask all of you, have you made mistakes in your life? Perhaps everyone does, right? And still, you deserve the second chance. The same goes for drug addicts. They need the second chance to prove they can also live happily without taking the drugs. Therefore, I choose to help them simply because they deserve second chance to be new or better person. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. After that short discussion, we currently have 2 panel members who are in favor of punishing drug addicts and 3 panel members who want to treat them. However, I would like to bring back Mr. Muhammad Irfan Hafi. Would you like to add more points to strengthen your argument?
Yes, indeed, I do. I would like to also notify the audience of other statistics as well. In 2020, based on the official website, National Anti-Drugs Agency, the data shows that a lot of addicts come from different backgrounds, but most of them are mostly unemployed and those who work in the private sector. More than 63% of them had finished secondary school. This data means that drug addicts are actually just like us, normal human beings, who just happen to make a bad choice either through their peers or out of curiosity. In my opinion, we should not neglect them, nor should we prosecute them for being addicts, because addicts or addiction can be cured. Thank you.
Sorry for interrupt you, Mr. Ifan Hafi. The treatment is kind of good suggestion, but in my opinion, I think by helping them, it look like we pamper them, and sooner or later, they will be taking a drug against. I believe punishing them is not a bad thing because we can raise awareness among them. As we know, drug addiction is a difficult crisis, a harmful habit with a very toxic substance that causes people to act in a way that is completely different from their true nature as individual. Drug addiction is a physical and mental crisis, but also a criminal habit, as every time a drug addict uses drug, he or she is breaking the law. Based on the star Based on the star news on 6 September 2020, the driver of the SUV was arrested for going against traffic, driving under the influence of drugs. From the news, Kuala Lumpur Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Chief ACP Zulkifli Yahya said the driver of the SUV tested positive for drugs, adding that the case was being investigated under Section 42(1) of the Road Transport Act 1987 for dangerous driving and also under Dangerous Drug Act for drug abuse. From what we can see, the drug addict endanger the public with their behavior. I think the possession of drug is a serious offense in Malaysia. So I'm sure punishment is the best treatment for drug addict. Thank you.
I see what you are saying, Inspector Najwa. However, if you look from different points of view, we can punish them by treating them. Being in rehabilitation for a minimum 6 months can actually then become a new person. By 6 months, you are simply adapting with your current life and forget the thing from the last 6 months. To add, rather than prioritizing enforcement, we should prioritize health, especially these also involve mental crises, just like what you said just now. Forcing them only can make their mental health worse. To agree with Mr. Irfan Hafi, during the walkabout sessions in the alley of Chokit that was done by Mr. Said Sadiq, the conversation happened to be more of a fact-finding effort to understand their situation better. Rather than to penalize, most of them had been trapped in drug addiction either by peer pressure or out of ignorance. A number of them began to disclose their heartbreaking stories. It's not acceptable to let this kind of people's life to be in prison when there's a bright future ahead. Hence, I am deeply convinced they need to be helped rather than punished because they also have their loved ones waiting for them. Thank you.
In addition, Ms. Nurhuda, would you like to add more points to your argument as well?
Okay, I'm sorry, but I do agree with Inspector Najwa. I believe strongly that people who choose to use drugs deserve to be punished and also help. But sometimes being punished is a necessary discomfort to bring them to a better place. They make the choices, and by breaking the law, they deserve to pay heavily considering the crime they did. In my opinion, in my opinion, punishing them will give a good solution. The website, the most initial reason an individual is involved with drug is because of peer influence. The survey shows that more than 50,000 cases are because of peer influence. Being punished will prevent them from getting involved in the crime and prevent them from repeating the same mistake, as there's even a quote says that experience is the best teacher and the worst experience teach the best lesson. If the drug addict not being punished, they will not learn and get involved in the drug. Anything happen in their life, but when they are being punished, it will be life lesson that they will not want to be repeated. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Pardon me. Um, in regard to the opinions given by Mrs. Najwa and Mrs. Huda, I would like to add something. Um, we are conscious that in our society, when we are talking about drugs, we often to label them as criminal. Drug addicts are criminals. That is the fundamental sentiment in our minds that we say drug addict is a criminal. Um, in real, we need to know, we need to understand what is addiction. Is addiction a crime? If you say that addiction is a crime, from a medical point of perspective, those who are smoking are also criminals. Why aren't they being sued? What is there a double standard in our society? So my point of view is to say that by labeling punishment as a necessary discomfort, you're basically making it okay to harm human in a legal way. So that is all from my point of view. So I return the floor to the moderator once again. Thank you.
Wow, this discussion seems interesting. So now we are open for a Q&A session. Anyone who wants to ask a question to any panel can turn on your audio or video. Before asking a question, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Questions from the floor? And from the audience?
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Hello. Hello, we're fine.
Hello. Good evening to our madam and so our panelists. Okay, so my name is Irfan. I have a question to ask. My question is, I wonder why I have to feel empathy for drug addicts when they choose to take drug in the first place. So yeah, open to our panelists to answer.
Yes, anyone can answer.
Okay, thank you for the
Yeah.
question, Mr. Irfan. That's a valid point indeed. However, by putting feeling aside, if we take a look at the drug statistics from the National Anti-Drug Agency, the age category of people who take drugs, 64.8% are from the age 19 to 39, and from the academic qualification, 62.4% are graduated from secondary school. We can conclude that more than half drug addicts are at the age of having peer pressure and the feeling of wanted to try, which can be seen as a big mistake of life. Thus, punishing them is like putting their life to an end when we can help to paint them from scratch. Thank you.
I do agree with your point, Professor Dania. You can't blame the drug addict for being a drug addict, but you can blame them for not trying to stop. Addiction is a disease. No one factor can predict if a person will become addicted to drugs. A combination of factors influence risk for addiction. The more risk factor a person has, the greater the chance that taking drugs can lead to addiction. A person's environment includes many different influences, from family and friends to economic status and general quality of life. Factors such as peer pressure, physical and sexual abuse, yearly exposure to drug and stress can greatly affect a person's possibility of drug use and addiction. Thank you.
What a great
Any other
answers to an
question?
excellent questions. Thank you, Professor Dana and Inspector Najwa. Now, do we have any more questions from the audience?
Hi.
Let me just ask one question.
Okay.
Yeah, can I ask a question, Anis?
Madam, it's okay, madam. You go first.
Okay, all right. All right. So I agree with Irfan just now when he said that why do we need to sympathize with these people choice in life? I mean, they have a choice of whether to take drugs or to not take drugs. I mean, you mentioned about peer pressure. Yes, you know, being pressured by their peers, but then again, it's up to them to make that choice, right? So they can they can reject it, or if they can't, then they will make that wrong choice. So it's all up to the drug addicts themselves, right? So why do we need to sympathize with these people? And another thing is, when you say that these drug addicts, when they are sent to prison, right, they are being punished. But correct me if I'm wrong, but in the prisons, they are being rehabilitated as well, isn't it? I mean, they are being given some skills and whatnot. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know about that. All right. So, anyone can answer that question?
Yes, madam. I would like to answer your question.
You're right.
Okay. As presented just now, we can see that the panel members who are supporting that the addicts should be helped doesn't bluntly say that they should not go to prison. Okay, it is a debatable thing. If they are to go to prison, then punishment is not needed. Then prison itself would be a place for recovery, so that we know that when we have addiction, it will cause to unnecessary or very dangerous actions taken by the drug addict. So
Right, right.
prefer to put them, but not as a means to punish, but as a means to help them to rehabilitate, to gain a better life. That
Yeah.
I
So are you
here,
saying that? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Najmi.
uh, madam, you want to ask just now?
No, 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 no,
That
no, 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 no. Go
I,
ahead. So meaning to say that in the prison they are being rehabilitated as well, right?
yes,
Am I right? So it's not
yes,
it's not merely punishing them, but just like in ADK, at ADK, they are being rehabilitated as well. They are given what we call, I don't know, I don't know how it works in the prison system and all that. But then again, I believe that all prisoners, right, they are being given some sort of training and skills and whatnot in there. Am I right?
yes,
Uh,
yes.
Okay,
They are given.
mm,
can I
yes, yes.
can I try to answer?
Yeah, yeah, sure, go
Uh,
ahead, Daniel.
okay, yeah, it's true that in the prison they also get rehabilitation. But to compare with the real rehabilitation center, the prison only gives like a small rehab for the prisoners, and also the way they rehab the prisoners, um, I would say it's in a harsh way, and the drug addicts are already in not already in a good mental state of mental health. So by being forced or by being harsh to them is really make it worse for their health situation.
I
So
see.
it's better for them to be sent to rehabilitation center and get treatment fairly. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right.
Madam, can I add a few points to that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, go ahead, Ivan. Yeah.
To me, I don't disagree that when you put drug addicts into prison, I don't disagree that there is rehabilitation uh, being done there. However,
Mm-hmm.
when you put drug addicts, there's plenty of drug addicts, and then you put them into jails. Now you're using the capacity of that jail, and mostly
Okay.
it's filled with drug addicts rather than more serious crimes. And
Mm.
that is why I am more in favor of putting them into like the CCRC, like I said just
Yeah.
now,
Mm-hmm.
rather than putting them into jails.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Great.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
Madam, can I add?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
in my opinion, the prisoner are not being punished in a harsh way, but actually, because when someone is in addiction, they cannot control themselves, and this also can be a very dangerous situation for someone
Mm.
around them. So this
Yeah.
is not a harsh
Mm-hmm.
treatment, but it's a more to discipline treatment for them. And
Yes.
in the prisoner, they not only be rehabilitation, but when
Okay.
there are many things. First treatment and then rehabilitation, and then after that, when they are in a good state or better condition, not in a addiction situation, they will be learn many new skills. For example, in British Higher News, they say
Mm-hmm.
that the prisoner will they the prison provide the prisoner with 15 skills, so you can choose. One of it is weaving the clothes or wood carving, a lot of skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Mm.
they get two benefit in one situation. Being treatment, get through treatment, another one get a new skill for their life after they release from the prison. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
my point.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anything else?
But there's also a tax aspect to like putting drug addicts into jail. So like I said, you feel like most of the capacity with just drug addicts, so you're just using taxpayer money for
Yeah.
those drug addicts
Yeah.
rather than spending that money on like education, infrastructure, something else.
Mm. Yeah, but then again, at AADK, isn't AADK using taxpayers' money as well?
Yeah, of course, but I'm just saying in
Yeah.
general, we are
Yeah.
using more taxpayer money if we put them in jail.
Same thing, like AADK also, isn't it?
But
Yeah, it's
in a
taxpayers' money. I mean, we are the ones paying for their rehabilitation, and because they made the wrong choice in the first place, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. You were saying, Tanya? Putri?
Yes, it's true, but in AADK, the tax is used to prioritize their health, while in the prison, the tax is used to like enforce them and to
Mm.
be better like that. I think so. So
Yeah.
it's better to like invest in AADK rather than to put them in the prison.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. So what you're saying is that we need to give them a second chance. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Anis, I think you'll have to save your question because
Okay, it's okay,
you have,
madam.
yeah, for the next one, perhaps for the next group. Okay. All right. Thank you. That was a very good discussion just now. All right. Thank you all. Najmi, okay, your what internet line? I think it's okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the next group.
Thank you, madam.
Welcome. Right.